Jai Gurudev. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Yeah, I think the last few shlokas are very, very profound. In that, Bhagwan is giving a lot of assurance to those on the path. So the one thing is that if as long as you are connected to him and you have him in your mind, huh?
Hello, Dr. Sandra.
Yes.
I just wanted to remind you about you have yoga at 8 o'clock, right?
I wouldn't be able to do it. I will message Sarita ji to go ahead. Huh?
Okay, please just to remind.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's share our input of the last few shlokas in the meantime. Yes, so we can share our input. So one thing reassuring is that we are on the right track. That is one. Second is what is required is commitment to this, the jnana nishta. And to continue to be, doing karma yoga so that your the mind gets prepared so that the jnana deepa can be lit. So we cannot be complacent saying, oh, he's going to take care of us. Doesn't matter. It will be there. Of course, that will be there. But again, there is that little element of self-effort and free will. Like how we saw yesterday in chapter 2, in order to have this tranquil mind, in order to be yoked to him, to self-knowledge, raga, dveshas are the obstruction. So we will have to deal with that. Because the moment you start reading anything about self-knowledge, the monkey mind will try and come and, distract you. It wants to do this and that, or it puts you to sleep. So that is where that element of commitment is required. But as long as we are yoked to him, keep him in our in our mind, satatam, all the time, then he is there, like a mother takes care of her child with anukampa, with a lot of compassion. He will take us through. Anybody else wants to share? I think Nana did the Pratipadartha for all of them. Do you want to go through that again? You all able to hear me?
That's fine. I think we went through those things, right?
Yeah.
Like you said,
Quite,
yeah.
it is quite, what should I say, self-explanatory, except that in the verse 6, there was a lot of factual input with respect to the Maharshis and then the Manvantaras. It's all very interesting. Daksha Prajapati. There's a whole lot of input.
Story to it, but then I tried to write a couple of the names, but that's it. I couldn't continue with that.
Yeah.
Maybe you have to listen to the talk again. So
Just listen to that again. Daksha Prajapati having about 50 odd daughters, 27 of them being married, given in marriage to moon god.
Yeah.
Those are the
like
nakshatras, 27 nakshatras.
Nakshatras.
And the Rohini is the one favorite. In the sense, when he's taking that orbit, it's just that because of the orbit, the moon seemed to linger more in that corner. See, it's just because of that orbit, he lingers there. So, but it has been made a story out of it. And see how nicely they put these things in Puranas, right?
Yeah.
I think the facts, and then they build the story around it. This is what I feel.
See, Puranas are, I think, the so-called facts at that point that were put in a way that common man can understand.
Correct.
Absolutely. The man in the street can understand, can relate to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't believe
give some
moon
scientific.
Shayaroham,
Yeah. And again, I would mention that all these stories are there in that Nakshatra series. I told you there are two parts told by Ashutosh Bhaiya. So if someone is interested, please go ahead and watch it. Very nicely, even he has narrated.
Rohini apparently is the star of Krishna.
Yeah.
It's Krishna's nakshatra.
Yeah.
It also happens to be Nana's nakshatra. So I don't know whether that is any connection, because Krishna's nakshatra, therefore moon wanted to stay longer with Rohini. We don't know. Maybe it's only a coincidence.
Yeah.
And again, for me, just to imagine the expanse of a kalpa itself is like mind-boggling.
Absolutely.
Sahasra Yuga Paryantam, 1,000 Mahayugas, and each Mahayuga is 12 Kali Yugas. Just imagine, and that is about 300 some million years. That expanse itself is like mind-boggling.
Unimaginable.
You have
and
to
see, we have
mind.
difficulty in imagining this period, the Kala. And he's Kala Teeth.
Kala.
He's Kala Teeth. And that's what I feel. It's you need to have that kind of mind to...
He mentioned something about Manvantara, right? You divide it by 14 or something like that.
Yeah,
what does that?
Each Mahayuga, the Kalpa. The Kalpa is the daytime of Brahmaji, is divided by 14. And each part is looked after by one Manu, Manvantara. So we are on the 7th Manvantara now. That is Brahmaji's 51st year, it is said. So
Oh.
we are in the Vaivasvata Manvantara.
Mhm.
And I think all this Nana said is there in the PDF. He
Okay.
also mentioned some little factual error there as
Yeah.
to the time span, I think. And yeah, it's interesting. It,
Hmm.
this, if I'm talking for myself, the imagination of one Mahayuga itself, even one Kali Yuga itself, is like huge stretch of imagination. What I think is that layer of ignorance. I'm just wondering, when knowledge dawns, how is it going to be? It's like going to be, I can't imagine what that state would be, because we're all under that veil of ignorance. So that ignorance is what needs to be thinned out. It depends on how thick or thin that ignorance is. No? And all the sadhana that we're doing, including um, Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, seva, even basically karma yoga, all this is to thin out that layer of ignorance. For people like us who are on the path, maybe it has started thinning out a little bit. But for those that are not on the path, it is still thick. Those that are completely into the samsara, into the world,
So how do you say that ignorance is getting thinner now?
because at least we are on the path. No, we are at
Path,
least
like trying to,
connected. Yeah,
yeah.
we're talking about him. Like in the other verse, it is said, no, we are talking, teaching, mutually teaching each other, talking
Yeah,
about the glories. So
right.
therefore, there is some thinning out happening. That is why we're even able to contemplate upon him.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we
you
will not be
started
anywhere near
thinking about
this.
Krishna all the time now.
Yeah,
And that with eagerness we come to listen to this itself
Yeah,
shows,
correct.
there is something has
Nirmal,
ignited.
yeah, today I want to tell you something. Like, one of my husband's friend, I mean, friends to me too. Like, she's also a doctor, and they came to visit me because her daughter is getting married. So anyway, some talk came up, and then she said when she went to India, she went to one place called Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu. She saw somebody who, you know how astrology kind of thing, right? You just say the name, or they bring the one Ola. Like Ola means like the palm leaf, written something in there. And she said, well, I was told that this is this is my last birth in the world. Uh, that's what that guy told them and all that. But I was wondering about that. Maybe, it is. And her mom, they said to her mom also the same thing. So talking about all that, so okay, I listened to that, and it just kind of threw me off a little bit, but then okay, I just listened. So I wasn't sure, how they come about that kind of version.
Yeah, but apparently there's a lot of truth to that, because um, this was several years, I think. I can't know. I don't know how many years ago this palm leaf thing is. Apparently, each one of us has
Mm-hmm.
our future written out there.
Mm.
They're called
I
some.
wasn't sure what they call it is, but they have somebody like that.
Yeah,
Is it
it's
called the
a
Nadi Shastra? Is it Nadi Shastra? I don't know exactly what it's called.
No, she only said, um, they didn't
it's a
even ask
different
much
science.
about
It's a
it.
different
Yeah.
science, and they are very precise many times.
Mm.
But they need to, but it has to be a right person who is reading that. And but many times it is so precise.
Mm.
We
This is
talk
different
about
different
only
thing.
the only whatever question you ask, that's the only thing they'll tell you. That's
Mm,
what she said. Yeah.
yeah.
So I was wondering, so is this something how is it written in the Ola, like about, I mean, it's kind of like, in the astrology, like horoscope, they only say for Dhanas Rasi, like Dhanas or something. Whatever nakshatram you have, they tell you generally, but then it is specifically to you, right? Like then you have to go to a Jadakam or something to see what planets are there and to really fit for you like that. So I was just wondering if you guys knew about something.
Your 12th house in your chart with the mean
Right.
Rashi and the particular grahas, if they are there,
Right.
then that's your last life. I mean, last birth you will take. I mean, that's you won't come back unless you want to come back. It is shown, but then again, your birth time has to be very precise. That is the thing. Otherwise, all the predictions may not be right. It has to be very right.
Very right. Yeah. Good.
Go through the shlokas so that we can recapitulate. One is Maharshaya Saptapurve Chatvaro Manavastatha Madbhava Manasa Jata Esham Loka Ima Prajaha. So the 7 rishis of long ago, as well as the 4 manus who have their minds resolved in me, are born of my mind, and of these are all these living beings in the world. That the different wives of Kashyapa. Kashyapa was married to, I think, 15 or 16 wives, and through each he begot different sets, like Danavas from Danu, and Diti, all the devas. Diti was the Asuras, and then Aditi, right? Diti and Aditi. Aditi were all the devas, like that.
Adityas.
So, Adityas.
Yeah, Adityas. Yeah. And then she said Dana something like Dana.
Yeah, but how come Rushi will have Danavas as a sons? Maybe there is another story to that.
But that is how it is. It is, yeah. See, one mother can give birth to. It doesn't mean that Rishi would give birth to only. It depends on what the samskara, the prarabdha is of the soul that is being born.
Because the souls come through you. You don't have any say on
you, right?
who come through you. Yeah, absolutely.
And it is in our experience, you have 3 or 4 children, or even 2 children. Each of them has their own tendencies. Some have, it depends. No, it is not like, how come this person, for example, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlada, how come such a divine soul as Prahlada is born to Hiranyakashipu? So similarly, vice versa. So the 7 rishis of long ago, as well as the 4 manus who have their minds resolved in me, are born of my mind. And of these are all these living beings in the world. This is again, there's another verse that says connection. Etam vibhutim yogancha mamayo veti tattvataha sovikampena yogena yujyate natra samshayaha. So this connection, the one who knows this glory of mine and my connection with that, in reality, he is endowed with unshaken vision. There is no doubt about this. So here is that connection between Brahma and Maya and the Jagat. So as long as we know that connection, then He has unshaken vision. He will not get carried away. He knows the real from the unreal. Aham sarvasya prabhavah matta sarva pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So I am the creator of everything, and because of me, everything is sustained. Thus knowing, the wise men endowed with vision gain me. Buddha is the wise man. Bhava samanvita, endowed with vision. Mam bhajante, gain me. Then machitta madgata pranaha bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So those whose minds are in me, whose living is resolved in me, teaching one another and always talking about me, they are satisfied and they revel always. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena maam mupayanti te. And for those who are always committed to me, seeking me with love, I give that vision whereby they reach me. Priti purvakam, they're seeking with love. That is why in all the scriptures, be it Bhagavad Gita or be it Patanjali Yoga Sutras, doing it with honor and respect is so important, and with an attitude of gratitude. That is why it is so many times saying, when you are grateful, grace flows into your life. So who are committed and seeking with love that vision of knowledge, tam buddhi yogam, that vision of knowledge, dadami, I give, yena te mam upayanti, they reach me. Teshamevanukampartha aham ajnanajam tamaha nashayatma Nashayamyatma bhavastaha jnana deepena bhasvata. For them alone, out of compassion, I, obtaining in the thought of the mind, destroy the delusion born of ignorance by the shining lamp of knowledge. So Nana keeps quoting this, na karmana na prajaya dhanena tyage naike amritatva manasuhu. It is only through knowledge, and that too tyage naike. That tyaga is what? Tyaga of the I, of the ahankara.
Where was that sloka was from?
That I think is one of the scriptures, maybe one of the Upanishads. And today the other input was a nice perspective, was Upanishads are for Shravana, and Brahma Sutras are for Manana, and Gita is for Nididhyasana. No wonder we're getting so many verses for contemplation.
Contemplation, right?
No?
So what did you say? Upanishad is for?
Shravana.
Shravana. Okay.
Shravana is to listen to.
Listen to it, yeah.
Yeah. And then you do Manana of the Brahma Sutras. And then you contemplate on.
They said Brahma Sutra is more like a conversation, right? So that's what the Manana is.
Brahma Sutras, I don't know the origin of Brahma Sutras, honestly. I don't know whether that was put up by Shankara. I don't know.
That's the one in Prasanatrayam,
Prasthanatrayam, yes.
Prasanatrayam.
Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita, three of them together. Yeah, about Gita itself, there was one somewhere I read. When you reverse the Gita, Tyagi, like I think in Tamil it comes Tyagi. Tyagi is like you renounce everything, you
Yes,
come
sir.
to me. That's what the
Right.
Bhagavan is
Right.
like saying. So even that Bhagavad Gita itself telling you
Mm.
that word itself says that you leave everything and you come to me. That's it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nice. Fine. So should we go to chapter 2? Next is Arjuna Vacha. So let's just go to chapter 2.
Yeah, I have to go for a class in the morning tomorrow, so I'm going to go.
No problem.
I'll listen to you guys tomorrow.
No problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Take care. So yesterday we stopped at Raga and Dvesha. One has to take care of Ragas and Dveshas, otherwise they are a nuisance. Therefore, whatever has to be done, whatever is to be done to take care of them must be done. This may imply Karma Yoga, listening to the teaching, Shravana, or further analysis, Manana. How the knowledge takes place, what is required for it to become steady, sthira, and why it can be so unsteady, asthira, is what is being discussed in these verses. Let me just come to one. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. He indeed, charatam of the moving, indriyanam of the senses, yat manaha that mind which anuvidhiyate follows in the wake of, tat that, asya his prajnam knowledge, harati robs away, vayuhu the wind, navam a small boat, iva just as, ambasi on the waters. The mind that follows the moving senses indeed robs the person of his knowledge, just as the wind carries away a small boat on the waters. For the one whose mind is not resolved and is therefore in the hands of raga dveshas, there is no knowledge. Even if knowledge is there, it is not adequate, as it has already been pointed out. This is because the mind goes behind the moving senses, all of which are engaged in their own spheres of activity. For example, the eyes have their sphere of seeing in forms and colors, and the ears have their sphere in sounds. Thus, you find that each sense organ has its own sphere of activity. As the sense organs experience the objects according to their own spheres, the mind naturally has some fancies that one goes after as they arise. In other words, you go along with the sense cravings. The person being discussed in this verse is one whose mind joins with the sense perceptions, with reference to which there are certain inner cravings or fancies. A mind that joins the senses robs away one's knowledge, the knowledge born of the discriminative inquiry of oneself. This means that whatever self-knowledge one may have had is as good as gone. The mind, meaning the will of such a person, is one that says yes to everything that is not to be done and no to whatever has to be done. To illustrate this point, Krishna used the example of the wind with its capacity to take a small boat away from its destination. Robbed of self-knowledge, the mind is busy with objects alone. It has no time for self-knowledge. In fact, there is no time for anything because there are so many raga dveshas. Because situations do not happen as you want, there is nothing but concerns, one after the other. First, the pressure of raga dvesha is in the form of undifferentiated concern, and then the concern is in the form of desire, regret, disappointment, sorrow, despair, anxiety, and a constant sense of loss. When the mind is occupied with objects, there is concern. Whereas when it is occupied with the self, the Atma, there is no concern, only tranquility. The self will not run away. It stays put. Even if you come back after 20 years, Atma will still be Sat Chit Ananda. Regardless of which book you read, Atma will not grow into Asat Chitananda. Atma is always fullness, limitlessness, Ananda. If the object of your knowledge is the Atma, the self, then there is Ananda for you. This is so true, isn't it? We have so much of time throughout the day, but how much of time are we actually spending on the self, on getting connected with the self? The mind is, and every sense organ has its own, it pulls us towards the different things. Like for instance, sight. There are things that you want to see, there are things you want to hear, you want to taste, touch, feel. So the mind is forever outside. That is why that Manaha, you'll have to convert that into Namaha, go within. And otherwise the mind is forever like the 5 horses. It keeps racing out towards the world. Krishna summed up all that he had said with reference to one's knowledge becoming steady in the following verse. Tasmad dyasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Tasmat, therefore, mahabaho, O mighty armed Arjuna, yasya, whose indriyani, senses, indri arthebhyah, from sense objects, sarvashaha, completely, nigrihitani, are withdrawn or mastered, tasya, his prajna, knowledge, pratishtita, is steady. Therefore, O mighty armed Arjuna, the knowledge of one whose senses are completely withdrawn, mastered from their respective objects, is steady. The word tasmat indicates that Krishna was summing up the section dealing with description of the mind of a person who has some vision and is making an effort to make his or her knowledge steady. He explained that because the senses are turbulent, they could rob away the mind of such a person. How they do this was also discussed. Krishna addressed Arjuna here as Mahabaho, meaning, O mighty armed Arjuna. One may be mighty armed with reference to one's prowess and skill, but what is needed for self-knowledge is to be mighty armed, that is, strong in the mind, which is more difficult. The prowess and skills that Arjuna had gathered to earn him the name mighty armed were great in their own sphere, in their own field. in that he was able to control all external enemies. But his ability to control this inner one was the issue here. To control the senses, to withdraw them from their respective objects, means to be able to withdraw them at will. Just as the turtle withdraws its head and limbs into its shell whenever it senses any danger. If you want to release the senses, release them. If you want to withdraw them, withdraw them. This means that the senses are under your control. Only when you have the capacity to withdraw your senses at will can your knowledge be steady. The idea here is that the knowledge becomes steady only when the mind is freed from the pressure of ragas and dveshas. To the extent that you master your likes and dislikes, to that extent your knowledge stays. Because your raga dveshas are neutralized, you can enjoy the benefits of your knowledge. The pressure of raga dvesha being less, the benefits of the knowledge are more. The knowledge is complete when the raga dvesha have no say in your life. When they are all neutralized, when it makes no difference to you whether a desire is fulfilled or not. Only then is there no hindrance to self-knowledge. Knowledge and mastery of the mind go hand in hand.
One moment. Here I wanted to know this knowledge being steady when raga and dvesha are not there anymore. Even when we were talking about in the earlier paragraphs, there was something about how come spoiled brats are born to somebody good, a good king or a good rishi like. So I think for me it is like this: if I don't sit in a judgment over a spoiled brat, uh, then that raga dvesha does not happen at all. See, whoever whom we consider to be not of good character is ultimately teaching us what not to do in life. Whether it be a drug addict, alcoholic, or a commercial sex worker, probably they are teaching us what not to do in life at their own expense. So why look down upon them or sit in judgment over them? Once that clarity in thought is there, knowledge is steady, raga dvesha is not there, is the way I look at it. A whole lot of things that came up for me today, like when we did the earlier paragraphs, what Nana took us through also today, about your vision being on the divine. And to me, I see divine in each and every human being. I don't want to sit in judgment. I don't want to classify them as good or bad. If I can bring about transformation, fine, by giving them knowledge.
Yeah, so you are in a very uplifted state of consciousness where you're able to see everybody as equal. That is that sarvatma bhava, no? That's a beautiful state to be in.
Yeah, why this rag and dvesh can be reduced only if you're not sitting in judgment over people is these cravings or aversions. Why do you get averse to a person is because you have dvesh towards them. But why add that?
Mm.
So I don't want to sit in judgment. And when you see the divine in everybody, then see just a small example. This time when we went to the ashram for doing the advanced course, we carried people with us. And I also had a group of about 25 people, and everything logistically, like bus arrangements, train arrangements, food arrangements, everything had to be done. And then helping people, I don't know, like doing this kind of seva rather than you going and doing the advanced course by yourself. But when you are assisting 25 people with you as a group, block booking tickets, taking them by bus from the station to the ashram, all those kind of things, I don't know, like when you see the divine, then this automatically happens. You see divine in everything, everybody. You just want to reach out and help. Most of them were females who could not carry their own bags, but like they got an opportunity to come to the ashram. So many senior citizens, all of them did. I'm also a senior citizen, but I don't know, I'm quite okay strength wise or whatever. So we could logistically plan and do all these things. And then Gurudev just stopped by me and asked me, "How are you now?" And I said, "I'm okay now." Normally, just going, touching, blessing everybody on their head and moving on, and gives a knowing look and he just stops by you. That's very heartening. Like,
Yeah.
You're living that
Nice.
knowledge, isn't it? Seeing Brahman in everything. Then that judgment won't be there, right? And that's why
I,
you don't have that raga dvesha.
That is
That's
why,
how
that is,
it's. I think either you start from this end or that end. I think it's all Brahman. We are starting from this end. You are starting from Brahman side only. So you see everything Brahman, and that's why there is no raga dvesha. So you are in the knowledge.
as far as desire is concerned, whenever desires come, it is just like how many people can I take with me? And then, all those kind of things. Whether I'm going to a Rudra Puja or I'm going for an advanced course, how can we logistically manage the whole thing? Two of us teachers, we managed it. And then people had done it on a still bigger scale elsewhere. So, I don't know, like, I feel a lot of sense of fulfillment in this. Even if the desire is there, it is for taking people, more number of people to something good.
Loka
Like,
Kalyana.
yeah, whatever.
sattvic desires.
Yeah, maybe it is still a desire, but still it's like doing things for others.
Mm,
Who would not have reached on their own, probably.
mm. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think, see, in the previous shloka, Swamiji had talked about having a tranquil mind. When you are, when your mind is tranquil, then it is devoid of ragas and dveshas, and then you are connected to the self-knowledge. So the moment this tranquility is lost, you're out of that link with knowledge.
Even
That
there,
happens.
yeah, like we in the Yagyashala, we were about 2,320 people. And it's like when you're doing Yot Nidra and Gurudev says the knees pointing to the sky and then drop them to the right and drop them to the left. Evident, mostly the knees would land on somebody else's body, not on the ground. It was so, the space was such a constraint. And like if you had an asana in front of you, and then you were told to lie down after one of those advanced course hollow and empty processes, you could not lie down because somebody else was sitting on your asana.
Mm.
And Bharat Bhaiya, who was taking the course, had announced that be very careful when you walk. Like in his own, he had used yukti. Hey, don't leave pachin, like don't leave your footprints also on anybody else's asana. And here there is somebody exactly sitting on your asana, you can't even lie down. So, but the tranquility of the mind was there. It's okay. Everything was okay. The mind was not disturbed at all. Like, and I just feel that is wonderful
Mm.
state to be in. Like, no matter what happened, somebody pulled your chair away if you were sitting on a chair and meditating. And then when you got up to meditate again, your chair was not there. So
Mm.
it's okay. Like everything, like the mind did not get disturbed over these petty little things at all. When we talk about tranquility.
That is what is exactly talked about, loosening the grip of raga, dvesha on your mind. See, otherwise, in the norm, maybe it was the space and the energy there that made this happen. Otherwise, normally in the outside world, this can happen even in the ashram. There are people who are so possessive about their place, and this I've seen so many times in the Navratri, where everybody wants to sit in the front row in the Yagyashala. I mean, I've been through that that phase myself, where people want to sit in the front, right in the front, and they get up quite early in the morning to come into the queue so that they are the first ones to reach there. So all this is still there. All this again points out to how you still crave for that, the front seat. But then having being connected to this self-knowledge is when you let the raga and the dvesha come, dilute. And once they're completely diluted, then you are connected to, and you are in that tranquil space. Otherwise, your mind is forever caught up in, oh, I wish I'm the first one there in the queue. I want to be the first one to go there so I can get a nice seat in the front. All this drama happens even in the ashram. So it all depends at different phases of, I think, evolution. And Percy ji, it is an honor for us to be associated with you, in that you're such an elated, such an uplifted person who's taken care of your raga, your raga and dvesha are kind of completely, I guess, eliminated, which is wonderful.
We talk
And
about,
you get that assurance that even you can achieve that. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you disbelieve that, oh, such a thing can happen. But when we
Correct.
see you, it feels that, yes, this can be achieved. Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying that just don't sit in judgment over people, the first thing, and then automatically raga and dvesha will go. There's no craving. Like I'm sitting in an advanced course DSN where they put plastic chairs, and then somebody from the ashram comes and takes me, and then they put me right near the stage where the swamis sit. I didn't even have a thought. I'm okay wherever I am. If I'm late, I may be sitting right at the back. If I manage to reach the advanced course center where the advanced course teachers are made to sit, there I go and sit on a plastic chair. But then somebody comes and takes me right up till there, and there is not even an iota of thought in my mind that I need to go there. Like, but it just happens.
So even in that subtle layers of your mind, you have no craving. You've dropped that craving. Otherwise, as teachers, we know that. No, we also go through all that. We say, I wish, Gurudev calls out my name, or he says this, or he, even those amount to raga, where your mind entertains those fancy ideas that I wish this happens and that happens. So you have reached a state where even that is kind of melted. You're in that beautiful space. Very good.
Yeah, good day.
That is why they say when you go to the ashram, most people, they want Gurudev to look at them. They say, you've come here for Guru's darshan. Darshan is you see him. It is not him seeing you. But people are so caught up, and they want that personalized attention. They want him to look at them and, say something. And even amongst devotees, when they share their stories, it actually subtly somewhere that triggers a raga. When you listen to someone say, oh, I went and he gave me an answer, and then automatically there is that raga that sprouts up within you. So even when I go and talk to Gurudev, if you want him to speak to you, you want him to answer you. So all these are again binding you. They are like ragas. You're craving for that kind of a thing. So
craving, and then you feel you are special, and your ego is uplifted again.
Whether you feel special or you feel dejected because it didn't happen, either which ways you're off the center. On the other hand, like if you're in that space where Percy G is, where doesn't matter whatever happens, let go. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting on the floor on a plastic chair or on those special chairs. It doesn't really matter. In that space, you are completely dispassionate. No hold of raga and dvesha.
Let me say that when Guruji had come to Bahrain, for some time I was in that space. I mean, we were quite close to him, but I never felt like going near him and then talking to him. I was totally busy in what seva was given to me, and in fact, the person with whom he was staying, she had to drag me to Guruji, but I was no, this has to be done, including Bhanu Didi. She was literally dragging me along with her. Now come, you have to come with us for the programs and all. But that time, that's seva bhava was there. Oh, these are the things we have to do, so let me do it. That time it never occurred to me that I have to be with Guruji only or Bhanu Didi only. No, that was not there. And that was such a beautiful, contented mind I was in. And people have literally dragged me to his room and got the photograph done. Later on, I didn't even ask for that photograph because that contentment was so beautiful. Nothing else we wanted. Just to serve him in some little way I could do. And I think my life was made with those few moments.
Yeah. Very nice. Knowledge and mastery of the mind go hand in hand. There is a certain trick to all this in that, as one's knowledge grows in clarity, mastery of the mind over the raga dveshas also takes place. With a karma yoga attitude, the raga dveshas are mastered to a certain extent and the knowledge becomes clearer. Thus, there is a mutual kinship between the two. The entire presentation of yoga in the Gita is with reference to ragas and dveshas. The psychology of the Gita is raga dvesha psychology. And as a psychology, the Gita itself is adequate and complete. When we are dealing with normal people, raga dvesha psychology is enough. It implies an order, dharma adharma, which is looked upon as Ishvara, the Lord, the giver of the fruits of action, all of which bring about a certain neutralization of one's raga and dveshas. Taking care of raga dvesha itself brings about a certain tranquility, a cheerfulness to the mind. And as the cheerfulness increases, one's knowledge becomes clearer. Conversely, as the knowledge becomes clearer, one's cheerfulness increases. In other words, the pressure caused by raga dvesha is less. Just as a bird requires both wings to take off, so too we require both wings, inquiry and a proper attitude to glide into this knowledge. One wing is as important as the other. So inquiry is proper attitude is lack of raga and dvesha, and inquiry is into the self-knowledge. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. Sarva bhutanam, for all beings, ya, that which, nisha, night, tasyam, in that, samyami, one who has mastery over oneself, who is wise, jagarti, is awake, yasyam, that in which, bhutani, beings, jagrati, are awake, sa, that, pashyataha munehe, for the wise man who sees, nisha, night. In that which is night for all beings, the one who is wise, who has mastery over oneself, is awake. That in which beings are awake is night for the wise one who sees. Krishna has been answering Arjuna's question about how a person of wisdom, a sthita prajna, is defined and how such a person interacts with the world. Upon analysis, we find Krishna's answer a very interesting one. First, he defined a sthita prajna as one who is happy with himself by himself and thereby one who is free from the hold of all desires. One who is able to give up all binding desires as they arise in the mind, being happy with oneself, in oneself, is awake to the nature of oneself and is therefore wise. The wisdom of such a person is steady. Although Arjuna expressed the second part of his question with the words, how does a wise person talk, sit, and walk? The spirit of his question was, how does such a person interact with the world? Taking the spirit of Arjuna's question into account, Krishna replied that one's wisdom is steady only when one's mind is no longer a problem. Krishna said that raga dvesha are the cause for one's knowledge being stifled or inhibited. For the person whose sense organs are freed from raga dvesha and whose pursuits are not backed by raga dvesha, the knowledge remains because he or she has a cheerful mind, a mind that is not in the hands of raga dvesha. Krishna then summed up by saying that for the one who has withdrawn the sense organs from the sense objects, the one who has the sense organs with oneself, if indeed this person has self-knowledge, that knowledge will be steady. Having said all this, Krishna was not very happy with his reply to Arjuna's question because he knew that to know whether or not another person is wise, you yourself must be wise. How else are you going to know otherwise? Only a person who is wise knows what it takes to be wise. Arjuna thought that the characteristics of a wise person could be a kind of sadhana for him, a means for becoming wise. But how could he understand these characteristics if he himself was not wise? This is what Krishna still had to convey to Arjuna. I think we'll stop here today. We'll continue this tomorrow. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.